Coming at you from the south side of Chicago, straight out of my mother's basement at my childhood home, I'd like to welcome you all to The Power to Persist. John, my dear friend and brother, welcome to the Power to Persist podcast. You're on the south side, a place that's not, unfamiliar to you, except you're in the basement of my childhood home where I grew up. My mom's upstairs. Thanks for being here.
So cool to be here. It's really a special experience.
Yeah, it's actually rather full circle. You and I have known each other kind of from afar, probably initially as I was a child, growing up in and around Push and working as an employee at the Chicago Urban League. And now we've had a chance to be more collegial as I've gotten older in business. We share a tremendous fondness and love for Reverend Jesse Jackson and the work of Rainbow Push. So very glad to have you here, my friend.
That's for sure. I still, remember seeing you as a young person, and of course, seeing your wonderful mom at Push on a regular basis.
Yes.
All of her contributions there were just so important.
A bit of nostalgia. You have a sweet tooth, like a really big sweet tooth. So everyone who's here and listening, I had some cupcakes for John when he arrived. Like, where did that sweet tooth start? Has it been as a kid, or how's that developed?
I think,
And why cupcakes, or is it other things too?
I love cakes, birthday cakes and cupcakes. And I think it comes from growing up as a only child. And, my mom was 36 roughly when I was born.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was very spoiled. So we would go to the co-op and we would get birthday cakes and cupcakes, and I would have them for breakfast and lunch. And
we're in Woodlawn, and you grew up not far from here in Hyde Park, right?
Right, not far. And so just having that mom who just like, whatever you want to eat, fine. I was a picky eater, and she let me have all the good stuff.
You are, so we can level set here with everyone who's going to be listening and joining us. You are the founder, chairman, and co-CEO of Ariel Investments, one of the world's premier investment firms. In fact, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. People have actually compared you to Warren Buffett. Like, how does that land to be compared to Warren Buffett?
Well, that's really kind of unbelievable. But I do feel good that after being in business for 43 years, that there's still respect for what we've been able to do as a specialist in small and mid-cap undervalued securities. And just came off the Barron's Roundtable last Monday and a week ago. And it's just sort of nice that you get that kind of recognition where Barron's picks kind of their all-stars for the year, and you get to be on the cover talking about your favorite stocks and what's happening with the economy. So you sit around that room with these other, investors, and some of them who are real true legends. You just feel lucky to be there, and the chance to get to know someone like Warren, go to Omaha and
Right.
have lunch or whatever. It's like
Right.
a special privilege.
So let's assume some of the folks listening to us have no idea what it means to be the founder, chairman, and co-CEO of an investment firm. Let's break it down. What exactly do you and your team do on a daily basis?
Well, thanks for asking. And as I mentioned, we started 43 years ago, and Ariel Investments was the first Black-owned money management and mutual fund company in the country's history.
Wow.
So there's a guy named Eddie Brown in Baltimore who started about 6 months after we did.
Wow.
In fact, we all celebrated our 40th anniversaries together a couple of years ago at the African American Museum at the Smithsonian in D.C. And it was one of those special things that sort of the two of us could do that together. And both what Eddie Brown does and what we do at Ariel is a mini version of what Fidelity or Vanguard or T. Rowe Price. Those are the big mutual fund and money management firms in the country. And what Fidelity does, of course, is they have mutual funds for individual investors who can find those funds by going directly to Fidelity or going to their financial advisor and asking for the funds, or have it added to their 401k plans. And that's the same thing with Ariel. We want our mutual funds available for all investors.
Yeah.
And so what our mutual funds, as I mentioned originally, were focused on small and mid-sized companies. Uh, Ariel Fund started in 1986,
Mm,
and so it's celebrating its 40th anniversary as a mutual fund this year.
wow.
And so we're really proud that we're number one in our category, but and often number one in our category since inception in 1986. But I have to be honest, there's typically less than 3 funds that
Wow.
go back that far.
Wow.
Now there are hundreds of funds that that we compete within our category. So we think we provided a role model for others to get into the industry for the first time. There's lots of now black-owned money management firms and mutual fund companies, and now private equity funds. But again, we're proud of being the first, and hopefully, it had an influence. And then finally, we hope that we've encouraged more African American families to invest in mutual funds because often they found out about us first through articles in Ebony or Black Enterprise, advertisements in Black Enterprise or Ebony, sponsorships at various conferences from the Urban League to Rainbow to what have you. And often you'll run into someone and say, I invested in your mutual fund 40 years ago or 30 years ago, and right when you were starting out, and never would have invested in the stock market
Yeah.
except you guys were there.
Part of the reason why I asked folks to come and join me here at my childhood home, probably not so much in your case because you're a native of the South Side, you're from Chicago, but for others, it's quite a transition, perhaps from their hotel downtown or even in some places in High Park over to this side of Woodlawn, where I grew up. You kind of touched on this, but as I look at you and I think about your journey and being from the South Side to where you are now, how do you get more young people, some of my neighbors around here, some of the kids around here, engaged and wanting to grow up to be the next John Rogers? I fully acknowledge, fully as you just did, that we probably have more Black women and men in financial services and asset management than we've ever had before. And I hope that trajectory continues to move forward. But I still see, I don't hear enough young people in my neighborhood wanting to grow up. And I want to start a firm like John Rogers. How do we continue to be a catalyst for those kind of aspirations?
Well, I think we have to do more with urban public schools to expose young people of color to the stock market and investing. I think that's just critically important. And again, most inner city urban schools, they're not teaching the kids about the stock market.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I was very fortunate during the Obama administration to chair his initiative for financial literacy for young Americans. And the advice we gave to the president after the years of working on this commission was to follow what we were doing here in Chicago. Almost 30 years ago or so, we started the Ariel Community Academy, which is a public school. It was done with the help of Arnie Duncan
Hmm.
and his sister Sarah. We created the school from scratch.
Yeah.
It's at 46th and Greenwood. It's not far from Push, not far from where I grew up, not far from President Obama's home at 51st and Greenwood. And what he knew and understood was we were giving those kids real money to invest in real stocks. But first, every first grade class would get a $20,000 class gift. We would invest it in our mutual funds, picking our favorite stocks for those mutual funds for the first 6 years. And then in sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, the kids would start to take over the portfolio themselves,
Hmm.
pick and choose their own stocks, get exposed to the markets. We would do fun things like take them to the annual meeting every year at McDonald's.
Hmm.
And one kid would get to ask a question at the annual meeting, get a tour of headquarters, go to Hamburger University.
Hmm.
And then Don Thompson, the CEO, would take everyone to lunch and tell them about how he built his career.
I love it.
So we were really trying to get kids exposed to businesses, exposed to the markets so that they could think about financial services careers, as well as learning the magic of compound interest and how you
Hmm.
can build wealth over
Hmm.
time. And one of the coolest things you would expect is not only the kids think about financial services careers often for the first time, they often became the financial expert in the family. They'd be going home and talking to their moms and dads and uncles and aunts and grandparents about why aren't you in the market? And we think that's just so important. The public schools have to do their jobs, and all of us in the private sector should be partnering with urban public schools to teach the kids about the market, teach the kids about investing. And we think that's just critical.
One of the reasons I just have to say this, one of the reasons why I like sitting with you is because and you do normalize stuff that other people have no idea that they could actually do. Like you just sitting here and say, "Oh, we started a school and we got kids and we just focus." I mean, like, but that's cool because I think people need to understand that some of the things and the changes that we need and desire to make in and around our communities are within our reach and our grasp. You just have to step out and do it. And your testimony and why I admire you so much is because you combine your work and what you do with your calling to also serve. You don't find that a lot with business leaders like yourself.
Well, thank you. I would just say, um, I have a friend that often talks about a guy named John McCarter often talks, you don't want to just admire a problem, you want to try to help figure out ways to solve the problem. And so by giving kids real money to invest in stocks, and then when they graduate in 8th grade, take the profits and have a chance to utilize those profits for their future in their colleges is something that I think I was inspired by. One, my father used to buy stocks for me every birthday and every Christmas instead of toys. So he was an inspiration.
So you go under the tree instead of a nice red shiny fire truck, it's an envelope with a stock in it.
Exactly. Not a lot. My dad wasn't wealthy. It was $250 of some blue chip stock like General Motors, but he would let me keep the dividend checks.
Wow.
And so every, 3 months I get a check in the mail,
Wow.
and it's $7 or $12 or whatever. But it had an impact. But I have to other say to your other part of your question, your comments, was growing up here on the South Side, getting very blessed to get to know John Johnson. And my mom and my stepdad were really close to George Johnson.
Yeah.
And to see what he built with Afro Sheen and Ultra Sheen, all the people he employed, but to see his commitment to the Urban League, to
Yeah.
see his commitment to Dr. King,
Yeah.
to see his commitment to working with other black businesses,
Yeah.
Braille Advertising,
Yeah.
for example. And he started Independence Bank, the largest black bank in the
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
And he funded Don Cornelius and Soul Train.
Yeah.
As a young entrepreneur, you couldn't help but be inspired by the kind of commitment to our community.
Yeah, I'm so glad you went there because, when I went to DC in 2002 and, I started a lobbying firm from the ground up. I didn't work significantly on anyone's congressional office or Hill or any cabinet agency. I was just crazy enough to believe, right, that I could go to DC, given my civil rights and social justice background, and start up this firm as an advocate. People in DC looked at me like I was crazy, and probably some still do to this day. But you just said it. Now, I didn't have the relationship with the George Johnsons of the world, but because we grew up in the ethos of Chicago, particularly the South Side, and we saw so many business women and men that looked like us, it never seemed far fetched for me to want to start a business because I saw a black owned bank. Down the town was a black man that owned a building downtown that was the largest publishing company for black people. There was a hair care product company, right? There were black car dealerships and yeah, Mr. Burrell. And so while I didn't know these people, the possibilities were swirling around me, which let me know if they did it, why couldn't I start a business?
We're very, very lucky and very fortunate. It was just so extraordinary. The only heartbreaking thing is that really, literally, none of those really businesses exist or exist in any close to the form they were 40 years ago, 50 years ago. And it's just something that can't help but break your heart when you see that and hear that.
Life has a funny way of testing us right when we think we have it all figured out. Those moments remind us that resilience is not about never failing. That's what the power to persist is all about. 8 simple habits to help you stay grounded, strong, and focused when life gets a little heavy. I'd be honored if you came along on this journey with me. Visit lamellmcmorris.com to get your copy of The Power to Persist and listen to the Power to Persist podcast so we can continue to persist together. I'm going to pivot for a second. You have had some level of connectivity because you're engaged, you're involved, and I think part of your advocacy has been around politics, and I think that comes natural. Your mom was very involved, and at one point was even a possibility during the Nixon administration to be considered to be a Supreme Court justice, right? So you get it legitimately and honestly from being engaged. I am very curious. Right now, who are you most excited about in politics? Is there a politician, elected officials, a public servant that gets you, excited that you're hopeful for?
There's many, many. It's always dangerous when you you ask a question like that. But I have to say locally here, for one, I'm excited about the fact that we could have 2 Jackson brothers in Congress at
I'm
the same
extremely
time.
excited. I was texting with one of them trying to see their dad a little while ago. Yeah,
And so to think about the power and influence that the Jackson family will be able to have in this next Congress and be
very
able to
excited.
drive change is so exciting. So I'm all in for, of course, both of them. I can't say but help but be inspired by Robin Kelly. She is right on all the issues.
Hmm.
But in particular, she's been so concerned about the violence in our communities, the guns in our community, working hard to fight back. And she's just a marvelous congresswoman who follows through on her promises, cares about minority business and small business, but again, cares about us. She's running for the United States Senate, and it's a challenge she has ahead of her. But I think she's just a special, special woman, and just one of my absolute favorite people in the world.
Yeah,
You know, uh, there's a lot of others that the Maxine Waters, the Joyce Beatties,
yeah,
the people out there fighting for economic justice for us. They also give me hope, and they all, the last three are all these dynamic black women
yeah.
who have come into Congress and just are fearless.
You know, part of what prompts me to ask you that kind of question, because I want to be clear and kind of give proper context to those who are listening. You served as one of the chairs of then candidate Barack Obama for president in his campaign. His office was at his transition office was at Ariel. You were co-chair of the inauguration, right? So it's not like you've not been engaged, particularly at even a national level. So yeah, I definitely wanted to see who you might be excited about politically, not just locally, but nationally.
I've been really fortunate, really lucky to, being again South Side. You think about it, like Carol Mosley Braun was a friend.
Yeah. First black female in the Senate.
Yeah, and it's funny. You're right to say that because I go and talk to student groups all the time. I'll be talking about Carol Mosley Braun, and then you realize
Yeah.
they don't know that
They
she was
don't
the
know.
first black woman senator.
They don't know.
And but I was her finance chairman when we
Yeah.
won,
Yeah.
and, like, shocked the nation, and it was just one of the most memorable moments of my life to walk into her suite the night that, the whole world was watching, and then we won. And then, of course, to be able to serve as first I was co-chair of the Illinois Finance Committee, for Barack,
Mhm.
the late Jim Crown, and then the chance to co-chair the inauguration and walk on to the inaugural stage with my daughter, and, those are just special, magical memories, and to be a part of that, and to have them all from the South Side of Chicago. To have them, living literally within blocks of each other, blocks from where I grew up. Valerie Jarrett grew up down the street, and
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
Attorney General Kwame Raoul across the street, and
Yeah.
there's something South Side Chicago that is not as well understood around the world as it should be of all the magic that's come out of this community.
I think that sounds like a great book soon to be written by John Rogers. But and there's a story behind that, everyone. I've been pushing John to write a book for the longest, so I think that you have a lot to share. I'm glad you mentioned your daughter. I saw a video recently of you and your daughter playing music, and I'm curious about at this stage this newfound love for the piano. What's that about? And like, what are you playing? Who do you like to play? I can't remember what you all were playing in the video, but it was pretty cool. I think at one point she was even singing, but you were right there on the piano doing your thing. What is that? Why the piano?
Yeah. Well, I think the Instagram video where she's singing Empire State of Mind.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was Empire State of Mind,
Yeah. The
and you were
Alicia
doing
Keys.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You start playing at age 60, it's hard to catch up to folks who've been
But a
playing since
love
they
of
were
music
kids.
is a love of music. It's something we can grab on at any point, right?
I've really always loved music. I never read a note or understood how to do any of that until about 7 years ago, and I've completely fallen in love with that fact that, I can read music, play music, and hopefully get better every year, and, it's been a nice hobby.
I'm enjoying it on Instagram. I don't know about you. I'm one of the consistent, steady likes. Just so you know, I'm liking it all day.
I appreciate it. It's been stressful at times, you're trying to do something in public, and it's a challenge, but, I played basketball in college. That was a big part of my life.
Yeah.
I'm too old to play basketball, so I was looking for something to fill the void. I love music, and then I understood that it said that's really good for your mind when you're getting older to, learn a new language or learn how to play an instrument. It's makes your brain healthier.
So I'm curious, if you could wave a magic wand and there is something that you want to play one day, like you would have your own concert and invite us all to listen, what would that be?
Oh, geez, that's an impossible. But I've been loving some of the old songs, like the Crystals and the Ronettes. There's so much joy in those songs,
Mhm.
and we were playing some of that over Christmas holidays. So I was telling my piano teacher that's my next is to go back to those songs because they're really I don't know. There's something just again. There's just so much joy filled in those songs,
Yeah.
so
Is
much
that like a
energy.
Motown sound?
Kinda almost you're younger than me, it's probably a little pre-Motown,
Pre-Motown.
right around the time probably around the start of Motown. The song, "Then She Kissed Me" is kind of one of the staples from that time frame,
We're
and,
gonna have to find that and pull that up.
yeah, it's there are a couple of great ones, and, my daughter's singing one in that Instagram that you referenced
Nice.
earlier.
Nice.
Well, she's actually playing the drums. It's sort of
I saw
sides.
that's right. She went to the drums. I saw that.
Yeah, what happened was there's a good friend of mine named Joshua Moon, who you might know, who's a prodigy, and just graduated from Juilliard.
Wow.
And he was in the holiday season and staying with me and hanging out with our family, and he agreed to come play with us.
Nice.
So he's this world-class pianist
Nice.
playing these songs, and he teaches my daughter how to play the
I love
drums,
it.
and just it was just one of these, kind of joyous occasions where everyone came together in a fun way.
Can I go back? I wanna go back, we started out with your love for sweets, but now I wanna go back to your love for McDonald's. Now I need to find out if this is true. Not only do you love McDonald's, not only have you served on the board of McDonald's at one point, right? 20 years, but legend has it that you eat McDonald's every single day. Is that true?
That's not true.
Okay.
Not every day, but
Every other day.
yeah, probably at least every other day. I love their biscuits. I love the French fries. I love the hamburgers. I had a McFlurry yesterday, and then the Diet Cokes, and and I used to just love to just go sit in McDonald's, read, relax, kind of my home away from home.
Yeah.
It's just a place I'm just sort of comfortable. So I've been doing that since I got out of college.
Yeah.
Been lucky for me, I got to spend 20 years on the board of directors,
Yeah.
which was something that, felt like I could make a difference because I could give them all of it. I had lots of information with all the improvements I wanted them to
You were
make.
definitely an expert,
I
no
was
doubt about
truly
it.
an expert. Yeah.
From what I know about you, your corporate board governance, be it McDonald's or wherever else you do currently serve in places that you've served, has been about that same advocacy on behalf of all and issues around equity. Has that been a challenge to raise issues of inclusion at the board table historically and currently?
It's both. It's been a challenge. I've been serving on corporate boards now for well over 30 years, and it's a challenge to talk about race and economic justice in the boardroom. It's gotten harder. It's just gotten more and more difficult. And as you know, we started a conference over 20 years ago with Charles Tribbett here in town for African Americans on corporate boards. And the idea was to teach us and inspire all of us to fight for economic justice once we're in the boardroom.
Yeah.
And because we know it's hard, we know sometimes it's hard to bring up these difficult subjects. So we needed to learn from each other how to do it effectively.
Yeah.
Every year at the conference, we always have what we call the conscience of the conference.
Yeah.
And it's been Reverend Sharpton,
Yeah.
it's been Mark Morial, your great friends.
Yes.
It's been late Congressman John Lewis,
Yeah.
Reverend Jackson, Andy Young.
Yeah.
Um, you just think about just these Harry Belafonte.
Yeah.
So those people who risk so much in their lives to help us move forward,
Yeah.
I wanted them to be able to come every year and remind our community what we have to do and our responsibilities to fight. So I'm proud of the fact that in many places I've been able to change the trajectory for opportunities for minority firms to do business at those companies that I'm on the board of. But I've had experiences at some boards where just couldn't get it done, and you just had to slowly but surely get off those boards and get away from it because you couldn't make a change and leave a legacy of change, then there's no reason to be there.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody listening, one of those things where I love being around John. He just mentions stuff as if it's stuff that everybody does and normalizes it. Like if you want to make a change around an issue, start your own conference and effort and initiative. I think what you've done historically, and some of my mentors have attended that conference and still do. What you've done historically regarding blacks in corporate boards is phenomenal. And this isn't just something. What I love about it, it's not just something that you just started yesterday. Like,
Yeah,
this is a decades-long effort, that you've been going, and that's
so
pretty
then the
remarkable.
fun thing we do too, we have to have some fun beside all of us coming together and learning how to lead together more effectively. We try to have some fun. And so Saturday night we have a surprise musical guest, and it's been Smokey Robinson, it's been Gladys Knight, it's been Diana Ross. And you go down the list of folks who've come. We've had highlight. One of my highlights is just hanging out in the bar one night with all the group, and Wynton Marsalis was there as a speaker.
Mhm.
And next thing you know, the piano player takes a break, and Wynton is playing on the piano.
Gotta love that.
Yeah, it's like just for us.
Gotta love that.
And other times, Quentin C. Jones would be just holding court in the bar and hanging out with folks,
Gotta
and
love that.
so we just feel like, blessed to have these people come and want to stay and engage with the board. And now we have typically 200 directors. It's sold out every year
Yeah.
and really worked.
So that's a good segue back to South Side Chicago by mentioning Quincy Jones. You talked about business luminaries that have, had a great impact on your life. For me, Harold Washington, right? As a kid growing up in Chicago, when Harold Washington became the first black mayor, that was just seminal. And he still to this day is a hero of mine. Talk about Harold Washington and what it was like. I think at that time, you were a young man just starting his business, right? Just transitioned from or still engaged. What was it like growing up around Harold Washington and then again being shaped by the business luminaries, others like Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., right? What was it like being in his environment and around him? And how has that shaped you and your outlook in business?
Harold, I was really young. I was just getting home from college, and I worked at a firm called William Blair for 2 years. And that was when Harold announced for his race for mayor. And so I was young. I wasn't engaged and involved in his administration in any meaningful way. Got involved in the Urban League board when I was 24, and Jim Compton, who you know well.
Gave me my first job. My first salaried position was the Chicago Urban League, Director of Youth Development.
He's amazing. He would see young talent,
Oh, yeah.
like the two of us, and realize we were the
No doubt
folks he
about it.
wanted to give us opportunity.
No doubt about
And
it.
so excited that they named the Urban League headquarters in town here, for Jim Compton.
Yes.
No one deserves it more. And then Reverend Jackson, he worked with my stepdad and my mom, and Push wasn't far from where I lived, so he
Yeah.
would come over and have groups over in the living room speaking,
Yeah.
and I'd be the little kid sneaking downstairs to sort of listen in to him preach and
Yeah.
inspire. But I have to say, as I got older and I was an adult and would start to come on Saturday mornings for the broadcasts and go to the Wall Street Project and see the work that he was doing, it was so clear. A couple things. One, you talk about impact. He's another person who just gets things done. Okay, when there's no black people leading on Wall Street, we're going to have a Wall Street conference and we're going to put pressure on these institutions to give us an opportunity. And so he just was just, I love being around him because he was getting things done for our community, making a difference for all of us, getting doors open, board seats in Silicon Valley, economic opportunity. He also understood that civil rights was important, but economic justice was also important.
Mhm.
And he got that strong black businesses would inspire next generation leaders, as we've talked about earlier,
Yeah.
provide jobs, provide philanthropy, work with us, and we wouldn't be dependent on white philanthropy and white America for everything. He
Yeah.
understood that. And just so many people just don't get that importance of business as well as, we need to create wealth. So we'll get better healthcare, get better education, get better housing, get treated more fairly in our society when we get treated more fairly economically, where we've been locked out for so long. And then, as you know, I just read the most recent book about him from Abby Phillip. He's just so brilliant. The things he says stick with you, and we all know them. About how important it is to keep hope alive, and when he talks about us, being giants with grasshopper complexes, and you just go through. He would talk about how baseball became a better sport once Jackie Robinson started to play, and Ernie Banks and Willie Mays.
Famous Reverend Jackson quote.
Right, and he just goes on and on. Everywhere you look, there's something he said, and he says it in a way maybe sometimes I didn't always understand it right away. And then maybe 5, 10 years later, I wrote, "That was brilliant." His insight was brilliant. His vision was brilliant. And so just having the chance to be around that brilliance and see the difference he was making, but how damn smart he is just extraordinary.
When you started Ariel, you were very young, right? But your mantra has always been slow and steady wins the race, right? Your the Ariel, if you will, is the turtle. Was there something that you were trying to solve? Was it a problem? Was it something about how money moved that you weren't settled? What prompted you, one, to start this firm? And then how in the world did you, come up with, when everyone tries to do stuff so fast, why did slow and steady become your focus?
I think part of the reason for the focus was there was a couple things. One, I actually, I played basketball at Princeton. I
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, my coach, Pete Carrill, who's in the Hall of Fame, was known for a patient brand of basketball.
Yeah.
We had passed the ball around and around until we got a shot we were pretty sure we can make. Well, that's kind of how I invested. I was going to take my time picking stocks that I felt comfortable would work for the long run for our
Was
shareholders.
that a popular perspective in business?
No, most people are traders,
Okay.
and most people get caught up with whatever the hot concept of the moment
Yeah.
is. So, being a Warren Buffett type of an investor who buys a good company and owns it for the long term
Mhm.
is relatively rare. But the idea is that there are very few good businesses. When you find one, you want to hold it for the long run, and that patience is a winning investment strategy
Mhm.
that really truly works. And it was a way for me also starting the firm at 24 to signal to customers and prospective customers that I was going to be prudent and patient with their money. I
Mhm.
wasn't going to take crazy risks trying to get
Mhm.
rich quick with their money.
Mhm.
So I wanted to solve for that because I thought maybe they'll think the young guy's kind of this gunslinger taking undue risks. First black firm in the country's history. We got to be careful here. I was trying to show them that we were going to be careful with their money.
Right.
And finally, it came with a logo, which I loved. That Aesop's fable, the tortoise beats the hare. And as you mentioned, the tortoise is our logo, or our turtle is our logo, and it would be memorable so that people remember us. So, Black Enterprise did a cover story with me and a tortoise,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
I love it.
so it made the firm more memorable.
So I've gotta tell a little story here. The first time, uh, I had an opportunity to meet with you at your office, you probably don't remember, but, it's already, like, nervous. You're going to meet with
Okay.
John Rogers, right? But you go in and, I get taken to a conference room, and you take us to a conference room, and then we go in, and then you ask us to have a seat, and then you put on this video. And I'm like, "Man, what in the world we're about to watch? It's this video." And this video comes up, and it's you and Michael Jordan at this camp playing basketball. And I'm like, "Okay, what's about to happen here?" And correct me if I'm wrong, this is a camp that Michael Jordan used to have, kinda back in the 2000s, and it was an elite basketball camp, and you were one of the folks invited, and he would do these one-on-one drills with folks, and the goal was to try to meet Michael Jordan, and allegedly, you're the only person that's ever beat Michael Jordan at this camp in one-on-one. Is that true?
That's true. It's a very unbelievably, unbelievable experience because the camp was called the Senior Flight School. So it was for campers 35 and older, and you'd go to the camp. There were all the best coaches in the world were there, from John Thompson to Mike Krzyzewski. NBA referees. You're on a team, for again. But every one day during the camp every year, he would challenge any camper to a game of one-on-one. First to 3 baskets wins. And he would let people make a basket or two, and then he would clamp down.
Yeah.
People get nervous. You're playing in front of the whole camp, and no one ever beat him. And I was, it comes up all the time. I was just doing the a show on Barron's, and they played a clip of it.
It's a heck of a story.
Yeah, so and the
Who
cool
beats Michael Jordan in any format?
and the fun part about it, you would appreciate too, is that when I make the last shot and he almost blocks it,
Yeah.
you can hear him say on the video, "Oh no." He knew it was going in.
Yeah.
And so it's got millions of views on YouTube, and I get people stop me on the street, and
That's hilarious.
people Google it, and it comes up
That's
all the
very cool.
time. So it's yeah.
But you know what? I was thinking about it actually, and I wanted to get your perspective on this. It seems to me it's kind of a metaphor of life, right? I imagine that the hundreds of people who've tried to beat Michael Jordan in that one-on-one game tried to do it, you know, playing Michael Jordan's game and how he plays. I think the powerful message about that is you beat Michael Jordan because you played your game.
It's true. It's as much as he was talking trash and everything, and I decided that what I was always pretty good at high school and college was driving to the basket and making difficult layups with either hand. And so all 3 baskets, it was a short game. So I realized it was never happen again. If I played him 100 times, he would beat me the next 100 times. But the thing that I could maybe sneak by him with was that I could and make layups with either hand and surprise him with a quick first step. And so even though he's 6'7" and I'm just about barely 6 feet, I decided to go at him at the rim. And again, the late John Thompson, the coach, he interviewed me for his radio show afterwards. And that's what he couldn't get over. So Johnny drove to the basket. He's like, that was kind of the right thing to do at that time of the game. And honestly, I think he was tired. He'd played a bunch of campers by the time he got to me. That was the advantage.
Brother, it's Michael Jordan. The fact that you beat Michael Jordan tired or whatever condition he's one leg, the fact that you beat Michael Jordan, you beat Michael Jordan. That's the story. And I think the more important message for all of us is just play our game.
Mhm.
You know, be who we are.
That's really
Stick to who we are. And when you stick to who you are, you can win.
play to your strengths.
Play to your strength. If there was one, we've had a wide ranging conversation. Um, but for someone listening, if there was one thing that you wanted someone to take away about John Rogers, what would that be?
I'm committed to trying to be a really, really good teammate uh, in everything that I do. Just show up as a good teammate to try to help whatever team I'm on win. And so I feel like I'm part of uh, the African American team, and I'm going to be here trying to help fight to try to get fairness to our community every step of the way. And every room I'm in, every opportunity I get, I'm going to be, just pushing and fighting. And so just very lucky though that as I said, inspired by these great entrepreneurs in town. Inspired my dad was a Tuskegee Airman.
Yeah,
You mentioned my mom. Uh, having we have actually tapes of her her talking with Richard Nixon about a potential Supreme Court
that's remarkable.
opportunity,
Wow.
and my great grandfather had the Stratford Hotel that was burned down in the massacre. So I'm just so blessed to have these family leaders who had such an impact, along with these other great leaders here in Chicago, that made me want to show up and join the fight with Reverend Jackson and the others here in my hometown.
Sir, you truly embody to whom much is given, much is required. You have made, I know, your mom, your dad, and all of our ancestors remarkably proud, not just because of your success in business, but because of the service and the way you give back. I can't thank you enough for taking a moment to come and be with us on the Power to Persist podcast. You honor me as someone who's looked up to you, but I hope everyone uh, gets to take away the best of who and what John Rogers represents.
Well, thank you, and thank you for thinking of me and including me in this. Been a tremendous interview. You're extraordinary at this.
We're getting there, buddy. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, brother. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening so you stay in the know about future episodes. See you next time, my friends.
Resonate.